The match has finished. West Ham United 1, Aston Villa 2 on Julen Lopetegui's debut as Hammers head coach. Well, there were a lot of debuts for both teams today. But Aston Villa won, deservedly so. The best team won, absolutely no doubt about that. Lots of work to do for Lopetegui at West Ham. This is just going to be a review of the game. I'll take a bit more of a broader overview in tomorrow's video, but let's just deal with the game right now because we've got enough to get our teeth into in this. I say Aston Villa were the deserved winners. They really were. It was probably a bit too much of a cliche to say a game of two halves. It was certainly Aston Villa were the best team for most of that first half, and West Ham had some periods in the second half, but realistically I think it's fair to say that the substitutions probably clinched that game. The old foes, Lopetegui and Unai Emery. Lopetegui's substitutions weren't as good as Emery's, it has to be said. They looked really sharp, they're full of pace, and of course it had that dagger in the heart story, didn't it, of Jhon Duran scoring a winner against West Ham. Football, it's incredible and sort of heartbreaking at the same time in the way it throws up these stories. It was always going to be the case, wasn't it? I mean, I did my preview with Guido earlier, and so many people were saying it, that Duran was going to score the winner in this game, and so it showed. Look, and there's a lot of work to do. A lot of work to do for Lopetegui here, and a lot of the old problems remain. There was no doubt about it. A lot of it was long ball from West Ham. Let's what we'll do is we'll go through the goals, and then what we'll do is we'll go back and we'll look at a couple. I've got a list of the players here. We'll go through a few of the players. We'll do it in some more detail over on Patreon in player ratings over on Monday, but. The first goal, it was early. What was it, 2-3 minutes, something like that. Poor technique from Thomas Souček, it has to be said. Gave away a corner which did not need to be given away. The rest was, well, it was Onana. Again, I mean, it's another one, isn't it? Somebody that West Ham tried to buy. We actually had talks with him. In the end, he actually ended up going to Everton because they were prepared to give him more money. Well, yeah, I actually appreciate there was a double-barrelled bit of heartbreak to this story. He was unchallenged. Antonio was meant to be marking him. He let him run off him. There was nothing really anyone else could have done. I think Mavropanos was blocked off a little bit. Header, nothing the goalkeeper could have done. Nothing Areola could have done really about it. And Aston Villa were 1-0 up really, really early in the game. Really early. And it set the tone. They were all over us. Yes, we enjoyed a bit more possession than we normally would under David Moyes, but our only answer seemed to be long ball. Mikel Antonio, it wasn't just that he didn't mark Onana for Aston Villa's goal. He didn't really feature much during the game. He was isolated, unfortunately. Jared Bowen wasn't involved very much at all. He got hooked, by the way, hooked on the 72nd minute. I'll double check that. I'm pretty sure he was. As part of a triple substitution. Look, West Ham got back into the game, and I think it was Lucas Paquetá who played the ball over. Really nice chest from Thomas Souček, chested it down. Matty Cash, it was a penalty. Matty Cash basically didn't manage to clear the ball. He caught Thomas Souček. I thought Souček played for it a little bit, but there's no doubt about it. He stuck his leg where he knew his leg was going to get crunched, and his legs got crunched. Lucas Paquetá dispatched the penalty and dispatched it really, really well, expertly, past Martinez, who we know is an excellent goalkeeper. But make no mistake about it, up to that point, Paquetá had been anonymous, absolutely anonymous, useless, some might say. It was a weird midfield to behold, actually, because Rodriguez, who's clearly not up to Premier League pace just yet, I felt was holding that midfield together on his own, was almost on his own in midfield at times. Paquetá was off doing whatever he was doing, and Souček was in advanced positions a lot more than I thought. And I've got to be honest with you, he had a chance to clinch it at the end. Souček was probably one of our better players today. Not only did he win the penalty, he almost scored at the end. Yeah, you know, the usual stuff was there, lack of technique and all the rest of it. But it was a little bit of classic Souček was what we saw. It wasn't classic Paquetá. I don't want to hang everything on him, but that guy who you saw sort of strolling around, bossing it, playing dinked passes over the top against Celta Vigo, it was like a different player. Look, once we got the equalising goal and it was 1-1, he got a little bit more of a strut. He got a little bit more swagger. He was trying to do a few more things, but he was never vintage Paquetá. I got to say, I think that Kudus was wasted, particularly in the first half on the left hand side. One really good cross, which was funny enough, was put over to Souček. Aside from that, by and large, he was wasted. Much better second half from Mohamed Kudus, but the team as a whole were better in the second half, and he got a little bit of something going on that left-hand side in the second half, but he got switched over to the right when Jared Bowen got hooked. But there wasn't a lot to admire in the West Ham performance, it had to be said. I thought Kilman and Mavropanos were okay, actually, and Mavropanos certainly wasn't the worry that some thought he would be. Soufal did okay as well. There's a slight positional problem that I think I'm seeing at the moment. We seem to play very narrow as a team, very narrow, and the wingers always seem to be available, and I don't think you're just going to see this against Aston Villa. So whilst it was quite hard for them to pass it through the middle, our fullbacks are very, very tight in, and I think once those wingers get the ball, someone has to rush out to get them, and I can see some crossed goals that have come from wide areas against us this season. That's something that's going to have to be dealt with. But I guess that's the sacrifice you make when you're going to pack the middle quite as much as is the intention. Emerson, I mean, it was a weird one from Emerson, actually. I thought he was given a bit of a torrid time by Bailey, it has to be said. It's going to be a difficult role. We were often told under Lopetegui that the wing-backs, the full-backs, whatever you want to call them, I guess there were full-backs in this formation, we're going to be integral and have a lot of attacking opportunities. They're going to have to learn the role. They're going to have to get used to it, because at the moment they just look sort of defensively vulnerable, it has to be said, particularly Emerson in this one. Whether that's going to change Wan-Bissaka coming in, I don't know whether that will change the dynamic of it particularly. Really, really hard to say. As I mentioned earlier, Bowen wasn't overly involved in this game, which was really disappointing. Couldn't get him involved at all. And I think he would have been as surprised as anyone to get hooked on 72 minutes. But a lot of it had a familiar look about it. It really did. You could be excused for watching that and seeing a lot of David Moyes stuff today, but I guess that's just going to be ingrained after the amount of time he played here as well. But the substitutions, I guess they came a little bit late, but he made 5 substitutions at the end of the game. I just thought Emery did a better job when Ramsey came on and when Duran came on. Of course, those two were involved in the game, in the goal that was eventually going to prove the winner for Aston Villa, who are an excellent team and will beat a lot of teams this season, far more than they just beat West Ham 2-1. But I think it sort of today highlighted quite how much work West Ham have got to do. I'll just run through the substitutions now. So basically, there was a triple substitution on 72 minutes. Somerville went on for Bowen. Fulkrug came on for Antonio. And Ward-Prowse replaced Paquetá. So that was 3 of them. I don't want to labour the point about how bad Antonio was, because he was totally ineffective, and they played, 7 minutes injury time or something like that. So there was still ample time for the substitutes to make an impact, and Fulkrug didn't make any impact either. So it's going to be interesting in terms of the striker situation at West Ham. Something's going to need to be sorted there. And I think it will be. It's just going to take these players a long time to learn this system, and a lot of those players that started a game were David Moyes ones. But I guess we did improve slightly after the substitutions. A bright spark was Somerville. He looked sharp, looked really, really sharp. I don't think it will take him too long to get into the team. Who's going to be sacrificed? I don't know. I guess someone's got to go, though, hasn't it, really? Ward-Prowse did okay, but as I say, it was a weird old midfield. There was a couple of double substitution on the 84th minute. Todibo came on for Soufal. Ings came on for Rodriguez, but that was after Villa had gone 2-1 up. Lopetegui was chasing the game at this point, and I think we went to 3 at the back, but it was all a bit of a mess as we were chasing things. Funny enough, Somerville put over a lovely ball. Slightly deflected, actually, but as I say, he looked sharp for Ings. It was Ings there with a header, close in front of goal. I think he had to generate a little bit of the power himself. Sort of fired it. It was a comfortable save for Martinez. Didn't really test the keeper. I mean, ultimately, I was going to say it didn't feel like we were going to score. We had a great chance at the end. A great chance. Ball came over from the right-hand side. I'd need to see it again to see. Maybe it was Ward-Prowse, someone like that, to see who passed the ball, crossed the ball over. Souček almost had like 2 bites of the cherry. There was maybe some calls that it might have been a handball. It wasn't a handball. Was involved a lot. as I've got to say, probably as many chances in the box as I've seen Thomas Souček for a while, and whilst he didn't, in fact, that was closer to classic Souček in his first season than probably we saw last season. I know he scored some winners and did some bits and pieces, but I felt like he spent a lot of time in the opposition box, and I probably had 3 or 4 chances. And I think, and I include myself in this, people who predicted Thomas Souček's demise and exit under Lopetegui may have jumped the gun a little bit on this one. He possibly does have a role to play under Lopetegui, and I mean, well, look who went off. So who went off? Obviously, Bowen went off, Antonio went off, Paquetá went off, Soufal went off, Rodriguez went off. Souček didn't. He stayed on. So there was a lot of familiar stuff going on in this game, though. It really had to be said. Ultimately, it was disappointing. Lopetegui's going to be disappointed. I can't think, as a club, we could have done much more. We got the players in, we got them early. It's going to be up to him to find a solution, and we will get better. Absolutely, we will get better. I've no doubt about that. But as a review on this game, we weren't very good. I'm sorry to say, we weren't very good against a well-drilled Aston Villa team who have definitely improved. Onana was not saying Onana is better than Luiz, but they look to be improved. They look to be sharper with what they got off the bench as well. It's going to be a good season for them, no doubt about it. It's not back to the drawing board. I think for Lopetegui, he's now got a week of training to really fully implement his system. It's going to be interesting to see what changes are going to be made ahead of the next game. But I think if I was looking at it myself in terms of just judging this game now, you're going to need to sort of get something going on, get the centre forwards involved a little bit more. It was hard. The midfield still needs some work. Would not be surprised to see more signings coming in. Look, do you know what? I'm digressing into tomorrow's video, which I'll deal with that a little bit more then. Overall, not great at all. But it was a tight game, and it was a close game. Villa, the deserved winners.